Today I'm going to be making ratsuche, which are a Polish breakfast treat, but they can be really eaten at any time. And these were a dish that my mom would always make for us when we first moved to Canada, and something that kind of remains a tradition. So we arrived when I was 7 years old, and we landed in Edmonton, Alberta. And it's kind of a unique immigration story because we arrived on December 24th, which is Christmas Eve. And for Polish culture, Christmas Eve is really the most important of the Christmas holidays. So it's even bigger than Christmas Day. So it was really special to land, and I have a really strong memory of sort of flying over the fields of Edmonton, seeing sort of snow everywhere, and landing and seeing my father. So they're a really simple recipe, and the ingredients are really simple. So at the time when we left, Poland was going through sort of the fall of socialism, and there were a lot of food shortages. So apples were always an item that was readily available to us. And these were really easy to whip up because they only required a few ingredients. So the first step is to take about 4 or 5 apples, depending on the size. These are a bit small, so I'm gonna go with 5. And you wanna quarter them up and then cut them once again in half and then into tiny little slices. And you want them to be fairly thin so that when you're frying them, the apples get quite soft and nice. I was really lucky because my parents at the time were able to get me into a Polish immersion school, which doesn't seem to be something that's still happening now, but in Edmonton there was one. So the transition wasn't as difficult for me because I was able to be in an environment with other Polish kids as well, some of whom were newly arrived like myself and some of whom were second or third generation. So that sort of exposure to community really helped, I think, kind of catch us and helped that transition a little bit. So what you want to do is you're going to be needing sour cream. So I'm going to use about a cup of sour cream, about a cup of flour, and also 2 eggs. And then I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of sugar. So you don't really need a lot of sugar for the base of this, because you're adding some powdered sugar on top afterwards, and that's really what's going to give it the flavor. And then I'm going to measure out my flour, and I'm going to take a cup. And then the other thing I'm actually going to put in there is it's called vanilla sugar. So this is very much a European staple. It's just sugar, just granulated sugar that's been infused with a vanilla flavoring. It makes it a little bit more subtle than adding real vanilla extract into it, and just sort of gives a little bit of a punch of flavor. I remember being in grade 1, and all the kids had little juice boxes, and my mom felt that like a juice box wasn't going to be enough for me, so she would send me with the 1-liter juice boxes. And I remember having to cut the juice boxes with those little plastic scissors, like the juice box with those little plastic scissors, and kind of keeping it on the shelf so it didn't spill. But in her mind, it was like, well, Sandra's gonna be thirsty all day, so she needs a big one of these. But those are just little simple things that you're adjusting to as you come over. Okay, so that's about the texture we want. It's almost like a cake batter. And you just want about 1 spoonful, and then just sort of flatten it out a little bit. So you do want to have some of the chunks of the apple sort of within it. So in terms of timing, we're probably looking at about 4 to 5 minutes on each side at about a medium, or between a medium and a medium low. My mom always both my parents just did such a great job of always ensuring that sort of the food story was carried over, and that, we were able to eat in a way that was reflective of our culture and have access to foods that were cultural. And I don't think it was even intentional. It was just kind of the way they did things. So, part of my childhood is just filled with so many beautiful memories of holding on to some of those traditions by cooking with my mother, and by making Polish foods, or by going to the Polish store and getting, Polish meats or Polish sausage, and especially during the holidays when we were far apart from those extended family members, how those traditions really kind of cemented and kept my culture for me, you know, and they made those times feel a little bit less lonely because we still could connect to each other through that story of food.